Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Austin Tech Connect. This is the official podcast of the Austin Technology Council. Now, we are just launching our third season of Austin Tech Connect. We've been at this for well over 2 years, and this year we are excited because we're really focusing on bringing you best practices from best practicors. And today, we're going to talk about AI. I know, you're thinking everybody's just talking about AI, but we have a guest today who really is somebody who has been working on AI longer than most people knew it existed. She built her first AI model in 2002. I want you to think about that. 2002 was long before people were even really aware of what was going to be happening today. So today's guest is Piyanka Jain, and she is the CEO of Aryng. Hey, Piya, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
So let's jump into sort of your tech career history. Where did it all begin?
I think, like everybody else, it all begins from, for me, it began as a kid who just liked STEM. Science and math were my thing. I was born in India, and I grew up there. I did my bachelor's of engineering there at Delhi College of Engineering, came here technically for my PhD, and I ended up getting 2 masters instead of 2 PhD, one in environmental engineering. And when I was doing environmental engineering work, still I was working on mathematics, statistics, and algorithms. So I said, well, I'm in the wrong PhD. I went to do AI and robotics at University of Minnesota with Professor Maria Gini, and built my first AI model that you were just alluding to, which was, at that time, there was nothing AI. It was artificially intelligent agents. So we worked with artificially intelligent agents and created something which was useful. But I ended up mastering out again. So I have 2 masters instead of a PhD. And then I was, I was a master's in computer engineering. So I was bumbling around as a coder and not really satisfied because it was using one part of my brain until I came across this job posting, which was for a senior analyst at Adobe. And when I read the job, it was posted on, this is in Silicon Valley, posted on Craigslist. People were still finding jobs on Craigslist in 2000, whatever I was in, I forget the year, 4 or 5. And I see this job posting for a senior analyst in marketing. And I read the description. It was a perfect, like every cell in my body woke up and like, this is me. Because it had all the technical stuff that I wanted because I come from technical chops. But it had this juicy part of marketing and talking about, how do you engage better? How do you delight the customers? And I was like, wow, this is what I want to do. And so I was like a Swiss Army knife. When I started working with Adobe, I knew a lot about the technical algorithms and math and statistics, and knew nothing about marketing. And was a really, I would say, really fast learning curve for me, and a lot of failure on the way because I started building models. I started we can do this and that as I understood the context, and nobody really cared. So my stakeholders were like, whatever, what's coming out of your mouth is not even understandable to us, like blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, I don't know, somehow I'm not landing. So I started understanding that I have to be in the context of what my clients, my stakeholders, what are they wanting to solve? And that's when I started working really closely with all the relationship marketers. I started with Adobe Acrobat, and then pretty much all the products, understanding what they are about, and then solving and understanding what do they care about, and then putting all of my learning to solve it. So for example, one of the pivotal things I worked was I increased the Acrobat's marketable universe. It was 2 odd million of people who had shown some interest in Acrobat. I doubled it with one campaign that I built, one model I built, which was a lookalike model, where I went to all the Adobe reader, the Acrobat reader, 50 million. And I built a model. Predictive analytics was still not known. People still didn't understand that. And I built a model and I defined another 2.5 million, which had even better response rate and purchase rate than the base they were going to. So one campaign, one model I built doubled up the revenue for relationship marketing for Acrobat. So those are the kind of things I did, which was where I started learning how do you connect data and algorithms to business. Then I worked at PayPal. I basically through these couple of companies, I worked with pretty much every function for the business. My last corporate role at PayPal, I was heading up business analytics for North America, which is half of PayPal's revenue at that point. And by that time, I had done everything you could think about. I converted data to dollars in every field: marketing, operations, product, you name it, customer support, fraud. Like, I covered the whole area. So I really understood. And that's when I left PayPal and started Aryng 13 years ago, with the whole idea of how do I give data and insights in every decision maker's hand. I really care about decision makers and getting data and insights in their hands.
So that's one of the things, I've skimmed through your book, which is Behind Every Good Decision, and how anyone can use business analytics to turn data into profitable insights. And I love sort of the idea of how you really wanted to simplify this idea. We're living in a world right now where everybody's making everything really complicated, right? Everything is big data. And if you're just a startup or an up-and-coming company, it seems hard, it seems expensive, but you really have spent your career trying to make this whole idea of data and analytics and now AI really simple for the average person. Why is that so important for people to realize?
I think, Thom, there's a general tendency in the world of business that anything which is complex and I don't understand it, it's snazzy and it's glitzy, I want it. Unfortunately, if you look at the world of business and if you think about, top 3 decisions that a CEO, let's say there's a CEO who's listening into the podcast, the CEO or the executive makes 3 good decisions from last year. Those 3 decisions will likely be based on first principle thinking, first principle of problem solving. What's not working? What are my hypotheses? And how do I verify my hypothesis and act on it? Versus anything glitzy, anything high-tech, AI. AI is just another tool in the toolkit of multiple toolkits. However, AI, and especially what we are calling AI these days, which is only the Gen AI, generative AI, which is the LLM part, it's a subset, that solves for, I would say, a very small percentage of the business problem. It is hugely applicable. It's a big boon to it's a big it has big application in process and automation. But when it comes down to, how do I drive, my growth rate is 13%. I want to increase it to 23%. Your 3 bets as an executive will come from first principle thinking, simple decisions that you will make, not complex decisions, but simple reasoning behind it, versus anything glitzy that you can think about. And that's true now. That will be true 20 years from now. That was true 20 years ago.
Well, it's interesting because, I started the podcast by saying, I know everybody's talking about AI, and you just sort of alluded to how it's the glitzy, it's the big thing. But right now, a lot of companies, people need to have AI specialists. The problem is, do we really have that many AI specialists yet? And are people making bad hiring decisions inside companies just so they can have an AI specialist?
Yeah, Thom, there is so many new positions for a chief AI officer, chief, head of AI and data, which is coming up. And it's really needed. The companies need to get on with AI, right? They don't want to be left behind. It's very important to hire those key roles. Unfortunately, most AI leaders are made overnight, or they've taken a 3-month course from this university,
or they just asked ChatGPT, how can I be an AI specialist? And then they go in and read that paragraph.
Perfect. Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. The challenge is that, and I love this. I love where we have landed with ChatGPT and Claude and how it's simplifying so much of our thinking. But the AI leader that you want to hire needs to be full stack, which basically means that they need to understand the back-end technical aspect. Let's say you're a $100 million company, AI, what is currently ChatGPT or LLM, that has possibility to influence a small percentage of your decision. Your big decision, if you are a $100 million company and you're growing at 15%, you want to grow it to 25%, that delta of X% that you want to 15 to 25, 10% extra will come from many, many of these tools that you need to use. A small percentage of that will come from AI or generative AI. A big percentage of that would come from, again, I keep saying that, business analytics. This person that you hire needs to be strongly rooted in traditional data, understanding backend infrastructure, understanding all things. So they need to be coming from traditional data, databases, data engineering, analytics background, and then add AI on top of it. If you end up hiring people who are, I've gotten an AI degree and I'm an AI strategist, but they have nothing in the back, which is they don't come from databases, they don't come from data engineering, they don't come from analytics or data science, it's going to fail because they're going to try, there will be a hammer looking for a nail. Everything will appear like a nail to them. Unfortunately, this is not how, it's a very specific problem application. Generative AI is a text to text or a image to text or, music bits to text application. It's not, most of your data, most of what we live in is still structured data. It's 9 and 11. 9 and 11 have no connection to each other. That's not what generative AI is going to be useful in tables, in decimals, in numbers, in categorical data, which doesn't have meaning. It's not where generative AI is going to be useful.
So there's so much buzz going on right now in AI. And, I joke that, in the world of conferences, I spend a lot of my time speaking at business conferences, and there's a lot of people who are suddenly AI speakers who have no technology background. They're just, they're good speakers, that they're smart enough, but they don't really have that background, but they're playing on the buzz. So it's, it's all sort of the buzz. But with that comes, I think, a lot of wasted money from companies. They're hiring consultants, they're hiring speakers, but also the projects they work inside companies. So around all this buzz and waste, what are you seeing?
Yeah, there's a lot, 200 billion plus industry. And I would say 95% of it is getting wasted. People start one project, then they move to next project because the underlying technology changes. You have new releases of Gemini, you have new releases of ChatGPT. They start down projects, they don't complete it, or they complete the projects, they end up not using it because it didn't really solve for the problem. I would say go to first principle thinking. And the way to solve this is go back and really look at what problem you're trying to solve and what are your hypotheses. We have a framework called BADR. It's there in the book, Thom, that you just referred to, Behind Every Good Decision. Go back to this first principle thinking. Go back to a framework like BADR. BADIR is a framework which stands from business question, analysis plan before you do, then only collect data, derive insights, which is the step 5, and step 4, and then making insights or recommendations. People really need to think through what is it that I'm trying to solve? What are my hypotheses? And then further down, that's why, Thom, we also do AI strategy for, we build a roadmap. We do a 6 weeks project where we go into companies and we build this AI strategy roadmap for them. And we are not looking for how do I apply AI? We are looking for where is your biggest opportunities for growth? And within that, what percentage of that would be solved by, hey, you need to actually fix your data infrastructure because you have 10 sources of data, nothing matches. That comes first. Or here your Salesforce implementation is really not working. Or your Salesforce to HubSpot is not working. So we kind of focus on that. And then some of the applications actually needs AI, Gen AI. That's fine. But what people end up doing is they basically haven't looking for a nail. They just go with the AI Vantage and they're saying, what all can I solve with AI Vantage? That's not the right way to do it. The right way to do it is still the way where you're saying, I'm going to grow X%. Where is it going to come from? What are my most important, we call it analytics agenda. It's also there in my book. Most important projects that I can work on. And of that, what are the different toolkits, tooling, infrastructure we need to make it happen?
So it's interesting because you talked about looking, where, when you do these 6 weeks reviews, you talk about looking, where are your opportunities to growth? And it sort of reminded me of something you said about your career at Adobe and at PayPal, that you focused on what do the clients and the stakeholders, what do they really want to solve? And I think this is one of the problems that we're facing right now is people are just throwing solutions at things without really looking at sort of where are those solutions. And so
Yeah.
do you think like some companies, not all, but some companies need to take a step back before they just start throwing money into their AI projects?
I think almost all the companies need to take steps back, many steps back and say, what am I solving for? What is my biggest problem? Again, first principle thinking, my cash in hand, that's my biggest problem. All right, let's figure out cash in hand, meaning you need to produce more cash every year, every quarter. How will you produce more cash? I have these three hypotheses. Cash comes from blah, 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 these areas. Like really, or if profit is, or EBITDA is, or growth is, or acquisition, customer acquisition, whatever that is, you go from what do you want to do? What do you want to go for? What is your goal? And then break it down into your hypothesis. How are you going to meet that goal? And then, but Thom, I also want to clarify, we are also deeply in AI, right? I've been building AI model. We have AI model. Right now, for example, if you walk into 7-Eleven and you see the ATM machine, all X thousand of those ATM machines, the cash gets loaded based on our giant AI model, which we built quite a few years ago, right? Before this whole LLM chat GPT came. So we are very deep in AI. We build models day in and day out. We know what we are doing, including LLMs, but we're not solving it backwards. And more recently, what I'm really excited about is we have Enola. We are looking for a public launch of Enola, which is it's going to be it's a 24/7 your personal AI analyst. So business users can talk to Enola like they would talk to an analyst, and Enola will solve that problem, interact with you, figure out what that problem is, and solve it in minutes.
So that's a perfect transition, because I was just going to ask you specifically about Aryng. So you started it 13 years ago. I'm sure with all the changes that are going on over the last, decade, there's been several iterations. But give us a quick overview of where Aryng came from, where you are today, and then I want to go deep into this idea of what you're launching with Enola, because I think it sounds kind of cool.
Great, thank you. Yeah. So Aryng, yes, 13 years ago, and many, many, many pivots, Thom, like you would imagine. Our last pivot was in 2020. Like I think every company had to rediscover themselves. We did too at COVID times. And what we ended up doing was we started focusing one part of our business, mid-cap, high-growth companies. We are all things data. We're sort of like the McKinseys of that mid-cap, high-growth companies, but only in data. So we do data engineering, data science consulting, and analytics and experimentation. So we do everything data for mid-cap, high-growth companies. We have B2B companies as well as B2C. We serve fintech, SaaS, all things technology, e-commerce, consumer app. So everybody who produces a lot of data in all different forms, whether they have transactions in the middle or they have, logs, customer logs, or sensor data. Manufacturing is also another field. So that's where we spend a lot of our time, mid-cap, high-growth companies. We are the fastest in the market to build single source of truth. Nobody can beat our time. The reason being we use Badr because we use business focus perspective. Whenever we are solving and saying, your single source of truth doesn't exist, we don't say, let's standardize all your data. We go by approach of, here's your business, here are your goals, what are the most top 300 to 500 metrics you need, and we only standardize those. That's why we are able to actually start and finish within the year. So that's one side of our business. And we usually do start with a POC on that, trying to figure out what is it that the company is really trying to do an assessment, tech assessment, and so on. The other part of our business is still with large enterprises. We do large-scale data literacy, developing a culture of data or culture of AI. People are really still afraid of, in large enterprises where people are fairly tenured, they're afraid of data and they're also afraid of AI. And we go in and we build that culture using the same framework, Badr, that I discussed. So that's the two side of our business, which we have been doing since 2020. And then we are launching this third part, which is, so we have consulting, we have training, but I really believe in, listen, we're going to make it very simple for you to do this. So we have Enola, who's coming up. Enola, as you may know, is Sherlock's sister. She's really smart. So Enola is an AI analyst who's connected to your backend data sources, which are messy, we understand, and interacts with you as an analyst. And then as a sales leader, as a marketing leader, you can ask a question like, what happened last week? Why did our pipeline show such a drop? Or why is my win close ratio, or time to close why is my time to close this past quarter so much higher than the quarter before, or what's going on? And Enola will ask you questions and then come back with an answer saying, this is particularly where the things are happening. This is what you should be doing. So that's exciting. And we are right now working with our first few lighthouse clients. If any of your listeners are interested, please, we have early access to Enola available. And it's right now free. So,
well, that's always a great price point for people.
Yeah.
So when you talk about, hey, like you're meeting with an analyst, I mean, obviously, that's an important thing. Big businesses always have their analysts looking at all this stuff. How is this going to change the way businesses operate?
Yeah, currently the big problem, Thom, is that, like as a sales leader or marketing leader, everybody wants an analyst on their team and say, hey, listen, solve this problem, build me this dashboard, whatever else. But there are only X number of analysts available for a company, right? And each analyst, even if you ballpark it, each analyst costs, let's say, $200K. So your $2 million is going in 10 analysts, depending on the size of the company. But that means the analyst can solve X number of problems. And many times they can't, your problems is not in the highest priority. Also, it takes one analyst maybe 4 or 5 weeks to come back with an answer to your question. Enola will come back in minutes. Once we've done the front loading work with you, they'll come back in minutes, come back and work on a crazy. If you talk to any analyst, their biggest pain point is the data curation they have to do. The unclean data, the curation, the cleanliness, all of that. Enola is going to solve that, is solving that very, very elegantly, and is going to give answers. And there's no limit to it. It's your personal Enola. So there's no limit to the number of questions. It's like your co-pilot, it's like, you have to make decisions. You as even a marketing manager, you have to make a decision daily basis. Hey, which campaign I need to launch? Where am I going with this? Or a CRO or a CSO, what's my opportunity pipeline looking like? Where should I focus? Why are we not closing? All of those decisions can be helped because you have an analyst sitting with you on your desk who you ask the question, hey, what's really going on? Why are we not closing? Or what's going on? What's the biggest reason when we lose proposals? What is the biggest reason we are losing proposal? Can you imagine if you can get that answer in minutes versus 5 weeks later? That's what we are solving for.
And I assume that every single day, Enola is just going to learn more and more about the company.
Yes, Enola is ever changing. Enola is fast in understanding. Enola also understands your job. Enola understands this is Thom. He's the CEO. He has these kind of need. Enola understands, here is Dixon. He is the CRO. And these are the things which are important for him. So Enola understands you and your context and your data, marries it all together, but does it fast.
So one last question about AI in sort of the big picture, right? So you've seen all of this growth over 23 years. You've been right with your fingers right in the middle of it with some big companies and then with your own consulting firm.
Yeah.
What do you wish that the average person in the average company understood about what's happening right now that you think, whoa, people, you're missing the point? What do you wish everybody knew about what's happening in the world?
Yeah, you can't not have your fingers and hands and limbs and your whole body in this. So you have to be in it. Don't get left behind. It's not scary. Be in it and play with ChatGPT or Claude or whatever else every day. It's evolving so fast. And playing is the only way. You can't swim in the swimming. You can't swim without jumping in the pool. You can't quite do this without really jumping in and using AI on a daily basis. Gen AI specifically. Having said that, don't lose the, what is it called? Trees for the forest or forest for the tree. The big picture is still, what is it that you are going for? What's your goal? And how are you going to solve for it? Don't get distracted. So what I'm saying, two ends of the same thing. Don't get left behind, but don't get distracted either. Stay course to what is true for you, what's important for you, and how can AI and other things solve your problem fast.
Nice. So you've recently moved to Austin, Texas. So what caused that move?
So my daughter goes to Austin Waldorf. So I am, she used to go to Waldorf in California as well, but we really fell in love with Austin Waldorf and they're pretty rich programs. So I moved and I'm now in South Austin so that I don't commute much. That was the reason for my move. But you find yourself in the right place. I'm really enjoying Austin. Since I've landed, I've been networking and connecting. I felt really lonely when I first moved in because I moved from Bay Area, from Silicon Valley, and my network was pretty significant coming from PayPal and with pretty significant VC network and so on. Always in the middle of, like before anybody else sees Waymo, we will see it. Like there was a sense in Silicon Valley. So I was feeling pretty lonely here in Austin. But people are really friendly and they've been really welcoming and really hungry for technology and really hungry for cutting edge stuff, which is really it's a very pleasant surprise. So I'm really enjoying getting to know the city. Pretty cool vibe. The weird part as well as the technology scene here with the accelerators and the VCs and just the desire to be on the cutting edge is it's very nice to be in here.
So what are your thoughts? Austin, every city out there, obviously the Valley's the Valley. We'll cut them out. We'll cut them out of this discussion. But every city out there is starting to call themselves an AI center, right? But Austin, there's been research going on in AI for, 3+ decades because a lot of the research that was done for IBM's Watson was actually done at the IBM plant here in Austin. And while it's not an LLM that we're all, seeing right now, Watson it's artificial intelligence. I mean, that's what it is. So there's always been sort of AI research going on in Austin. And we have several companies that 7-8 years ago started here who are just now, coming of their own as the world is catching up. But what are you finding about the AI scene in Austin?
Yeah, there are a lot of, as I'm just beginning to know more and more folks, there are a lot of companies here that are, there's a huge fintech. Fintech is growing in here. Technology in general is growing. And a lot of those new technologies which are coming up, they are in sales tech, like a sales tech or MarTech. So there's a pretty significant sales tech, MarTechs crowd here. My end is a little biased because I'm meeting who I'm meeting. So I don't, Thom, you would know better in terms of your entire population of who these people are. But the people I end up meeting are really technology savvy, technology heavy, and many of them are investing significantly in AI and are open to it. So it's not, of all the places where I visit, it feels like people in Austin are not afraid of AI, and they're taking it they're diving in head first, which is awesome to see.
So having lived in the Valley for the last 20 years, and really that was sort of the biggest boom days of Northern California, what do you think the future holds for the technology community in Austin?
I think the way the venture capitalists, the PE firms are coming in, more and more partners. Partners who are not no partners of that PE company or VC company in Austin. I'm seeing more and more of them are showing up as a presence in Austin. So Austin is no more ignorable for PCPE firms, and also a lot of M&A happening. I'm hearing of a lot of acquisitions. People are getting ready for exits. So I feel like Austin is well poised as a technology city, and the accelerators, accelerators which are showing up here, and the events they are throwing, they are really, really encouraging people to take chances and go into entrepreneurship. So I'm excited to see how it shows up and where it'll form. But I'm really excited about how it's coming in and showing up.
Nice. Well, as we wrap this up, any final words about AI?
AI is so, nobody in their right frame of mind will be able to tell you, including Sam Altman, what's happening in 5 years. It's changing so rapidly. Every player out there, Uber released their own, who is releasing their own agents and agents of agents, and it's really moving fast. I would say for anybody who's trying to understand AI and a little bit technically savvy, read the 2017 paper, which changed everything, which talked about probability distribution and how this whole world came to be. and what changed in 2017. Read the seminal paper on that and go from there. So be in the know-how, but if you are technical, you'll be able to read that paper and understand really what changed in 2017, why we were not able to do what now the LLMs are able to do. Obviously, the GPUs and the cheaper chips are making a huge difference in our compute. It's making a huge difference. But I would just say do some fundamental work of your own. If you are in an executive role and you're hiring people, do some fundamental work so you understand AI in a fundamental way, because there's too much at risk. 95% of dollars thrown at this is getting wasted right now.
Wow.
In the name of sales tech, smart tech, or whatever else, product tech, people are buying tools, technology. There's an overwhelm there. But if you're smart, then people can't fool you. So become smart.
That's good last advice. If you're smart, people can't fool you. So those are words to live by, I think. So if somebody wants to learn more about you, if they want to find Piya Jain, how do they find you?
Our website is aryng.com, aryng.com. And or they can find me on LinkedIn as Piyanka Jain. And I think there might not be anybody else with that name. So you'll find me.
All right. Well, this has been delightful. It was a pleasure to meet you a month or so ago. And thank you for sticking with me and getting the time to get on the podcast. This has been a great interview. I think everybody's going to benefit from it. And I look forward to seeing you around the Austin tech scene.
Yes, same here. Thank you for inviting me, Thom. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Well, thank you. And thank you to everybody who tuned in and listened to this episode. You know what? If it wasn't for the audience, there'd be no purpose for this podcast. As we start our third season, we're looking to do this whole idea of best practices by best practicors. So if you know somebody who should be a guest here on Austin Tech Connect, reach out to me at the Austin Technology Council and let me know. And is your company a member of the Austin Technology Council? I will tell you what, we can't have a community without you. A community is made up of individuals who come together, and so we need you and your company supporting our cause, because Austin can't lose that connective tissue of being one weird and interesting tech community. We can't just become a bunch of silos. Or why are we different than any other big city? We have to keep alive this vibe that everybody in Austin gives a damn about Austin. And that's why we need you to support the Austin Technology Council and so many other business organizations who are helping make Austin tick. So join the Austin Technology Council today, and we'll see you next week with a new episode of Austin Tech Connect.